So then Mary Sue finds Emo Ren's jerk room and sees Grampy's helmet that Emo just can't stop touching. And then she sees the other thing in Chewie's bandolier and grabs them both. Then she hears voices once she looks at the dagger, and suddenly Emo is there. He force Skypes with her, saying she's hard to find. How is that possible? It's been established that those powerful in the Force give off a presence that other Force users can easily detect. In Star Wars, Vader sensed Obi-Wan Kenobi pretty much the moment the Falcon landed on a Death Star. He knew that Obi was on the ship, but didn't know where he was, so he searches, presumably using the Force, until he finally bumps into Obi and they fight. In Return of the Jedi, Luke immediately realizes that his presence on the ship going to Endor jeopardizes the mission because Vader can sense him through the Force. We even see this in The Force Awakens in The Last Jedi, where Kylo senses Rey and then goes directly to her. He literally tracks her using the Force. But now that she's become ultra powerful, he suddenly can't find her. Also, since his Star Destroyer was just raided, shouldn't someone have reported this to him by now? I mean, the stormtroopers just captured Poe, Finn, and Chewie, so shouldn't he be told about this? If they're on the ship, wouldn't it make sense that Rey is too? Also, Rey's in his jerk room. He's gotta be covered in his Force juices, so shouldn't he know she's in his safe space? Anyway, Emo Ren tells Mary Sue that he knows what happened to her parents and that she remembers more than she claims because he's been in her head. She says she doesn't want this, but she spent 3 movies whining about her parents ditching her, so she actually kinda does. He says that her parents were nobodies because they wanted to be. They hid their true identities and sold her to hide her. Then she sees a flashback of her parents telling her she'll be safe and then flying off in Ochi's ship. Okay, so Ochi, the former Jedi hunter and Sith loyalist, helped these two hide Rey, even though if he's the guy with the thing that can find the other thing that can get you to the place where Uncle Bad Touch lives, which kinda means he knows about Palpatine, which implies he's loyal to Palpatine, which means he's working against the guy he's loyal to? So Emo Ren and Mary Sue play fight, while General Evil Straight White Man confronts the captured Falcon crew and orders their deaths. Emo Ren tells Mary Sue that he knows everything and says that Uncle Bad Touch wants her. I guess since he couldn't get the boys to do what he wanted, now he's gonna try a girl. Then he says that Uncle Bad Touch had Ochi murder Mary Sue's parents because they wouldn't tell where she was. But they were on Ochi's ship, so why doesn't he know where she was? Wasn't he the one who took them to Discount Tatooine? Or was this supposed to have been their ship which he takes after he kills them? Wouldn't there be a history on the ship's computer of where they'd been? Also, since he knows that Palpatine wants Rey, couldn't he just take them to Exegol since he's got the thing to find the thing to get to the place so Uncle Bad Touch could read their minds? Or maybe to Snoke, who's either working for or actually is Uncle Bad Touch? These two are literally the only people who know where this girl is, so why kill both of them? Why not torture them until one speaks, or kill one and torture the other? It seems a bit of a waste to kill your only lead to the girl you just gotta have. Anyway, Emo Ren and Mary Sue play fight again until they break Vader's shaft. The helmet falls on Kijimi with Emo Ren, so now he knows where Mary Sue is. He asks if she knows why Uncle Bad Touch wants her dead, and he says he'll come tell her. Or you could do it right now. I mean, when you force Skype, you're basically able to touch each other as if you were in the same place, so it's not like it'll make a difference. The Falcon crew is about to be executed when General Whitebread comes in and says he'd like to do it himself. Juan Solo and Token argue about what Token wanted to tell Mary Sue, and Whitebread kills the troopers and admits he's the spy. Of course he is. He leads him out to the Falcon and then asks Token to shoot him in the arm so no one will know he's the spy. Token shoots him in the leg and asks why Whitebread is helping them, and Whitebread says he doesn't care about them, he just wants Emo Ren to lose. So you're willing to help the people trying to overthrow your entire regime just to get one dude out of power. This is just monumentally stupid. What if La Resistance succeeds? Emo Ren is the supreme leader. If he goes down, it'll be easier for La Resistance to gain supporters and take out the First Order. So you're willing to risk control over the entire galaxy just to take out one emo boy. Also, since Hux hasn't liked Kylo Ren ever, has he been undermining this dude the whole time? For years just screwing with everything Kylo does so he can get in the good graces of Snoke? If he wants to get rid of Kylo this bad, what's his actual motivation for doing this? It seems personal, but why? Is he mad that Snoke favored Kylo? Is he mad that Kylo took over? And how is it that no one else has discovered Hux all this time? How is it that no one else has plotted against Kylo Ren? How is it that Hux has been able to hide his mind from Kylo when just a few scenes ago Kylo was able to sense that Hux didn't like his mask? You mean he can tell someone doesn't like his sense of fashion, but not that the guy is plotting to overthrow him? I'm just asking questions, because apparently no one else did. So Emo Ren lands on the ship and confronts Mary Sue, and now the stormtroopers show up. Mary Sue asks why Uncle Bad Touch wants her dead, and Emo says that it's because she's got power. His power. That she's his granddaughter. She's a Bad Touch auntie. This is supposed to be a big reveal, like Vader telling Luke that he's his father, but it just fails. For one, Mr. Bubblehead sucked out all the momentum of that angle in The Last Jedi because he wanted to subvert expectations, so it just doesn't have the weight it could've. 2, Rey doesn't seem all that horrified to find out she's a Palpatine. She's only cared about finding her parents. Finding out that she's a granddaughter of the defeated Emperor just doesn't seem to really matter. And that's because 3, he's been dead for 34 years. Rey's grown up alone on discount Tatooine, knowing next to nothing about the Empire or the Emperor, and in a world where the Empire essentially never ended, so it's not like people would be trashing the Emperor anyway. She has no reason to care that Palpatine is her grandfather, so why do this? Why make her a Palpatine? It adds nothing to the story and actually makes her Mary Sue-ness even worse because now she's a granddaughter of one of the most powerful dark side users ever, and she's just never been tempted to turn once. Then Emo Ren says that his mother was a daughter of Vader and Mary Sue's father was a son of Uncle Bad Touch. Wait, her father was the Emperor's son. When did he have a son? In the prequels, it's never mentioned or suggested that Palpatine had kids. Same thing in the original trilogy, so where did this boy come from? Better yet, how old is he? Rey's about 19 in The Force Awakens, and it looks like she was ditched on discount Tatooine at about 7 or 8. In the flashback, her father looks like he's in his mid to late 20s. So let's say he's 27. That means Rey would have been born when he was about 20. The Force Awakens happens about 34 years after the Return of the Jedi, so about 15 years after Vader kills Uncle Bad Touch, Rey is born. So that would mean 20 years before that, or just before The Empire Strikes Back, Rey's father was born. So why didn't Uncle Bad Touch try to turn his own son to the dark side? This is his own kid who he have total access to right from the start. Since the Force is passed down from parent to child, wouldn't that mean Rey's father had the Force and would have been as strong as her? So why not turn him and use him to replace Vader? Maybe he didn't know about the boy. Fine. The boy would be Force sensitive, so wouldn't the Jedi Hunters detect him and either capture or kill him? If he was hidden away like Luke and Leia, how did Uncle Bad Touch even find out about him? He would have no reason to know the boy even existed, and even if he did know, unless the boy trained in the Force, it would be near impossible to find him, right? Actually, how come Luke didn't find him? Luke created a new Jedi school and would have searched for Force-sensitive people, so shouldn't he have been able to find this guy? But that's not the real question. The real question is, someone fucked this guy? Oh my god! Dude is drier than Nancy Pelosi's snatch. To hell with why? How? How did you fuck him? It would just fall off when he tried to get it in you. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? All the Force powers in the galaxy ain't gonna make that face look good. Jesus Christ. Then Emo Ren says that what Uncle Bad Touch doesn't know is that he and Mary Sue are a dyad. Two that are one. Why? Because their grandfathers were dark side users who worked together?
That's not how the Force works.
They have no bond whatsoever, and if they're supposed to be two that are one, basically one and the same, why is Rey clearly more powerful than Kylo even though he's had more training? Anyway, Emo Ren says that Mary Sue should help him kill Uncle Bad Touch and they should take the throne together. Then he takes off his mask, as if that'll help, and the Falcon comes in to help Mary Sue. It blasts the hangar with its engines, knocking over the troopers, but not Emo and Mary Sue because of the Force. Mary Sue jumps on the Falcon and it leaves. Then General Whitebread reports to General Evil Straight White Man, who kills him because who the fuck cares? Nobody cares about this character, fuck him, let him die. Han Solo and Chewie find out that the landing gear on the Falcon is busted, and Mary Sue tells Token that she will kill the Palpatine because apparently this scene was written after they rewrote the ending several times, so they're kinda giving away a plot point that will fundamentally ruin all the canon lore about the Sith. Token says that this doesn't sound like Mary Sue and that he knows her, and she says,
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
this is supposed to be Mary Sue being tempted with the dark side. She wants to kill the guy she needs to kill in order to save the galaxy, but she wants to do it for personal reasons, so it's bad. I guess. This has all the weight of air on a scale. Just nothing at all. Then Uncle Bad Touch plays mind games with Emo Ren, suspecting Emo might betray him and reminding him to kill Mary Sue. The Falcon crash lands on the moon of Endor and they go to the remains of the Death Star. And excuse me, I have a question. How does something that big crash to a planet and not cause a cataclysmic event, at least near the crater? It looks like a massive portion of the Death Star landed. This thing is like 160 kilometers in diameter, so even if it was just a fourth of that crashed, that's still a large mass hitting this moon. Even if the whole moon wasn't devastated, definitely the area around it would have been utterly wrecked, and that's not accounting for all the things used to keep the station running. You expect massive amounts of radiation to be everywhere, especially since it's the part with the array. But no, everything's just fine, just some tumultuous waters. The better question though is, where did this even come from? We saw it get blown up completely, utterly destroyed, nothing left. So how is this even on the moon? And if it made it to the moon, how is it this intact? Also, how convenient that the part that has the thing they need to get to the place survived this, falling through the atmosphere, and then didn't end up underwater. And just conveniently, the water hasn't eroded away in a part of the down station. We know this because Mary Sue pulls out the other thing and then realizes it's the key, finds a notch on the hilt that pulls out, and the piece perfectly matches the curve of the array. She moves it across the ruins until the notches on the blade line up with the ruins, and the point at the end of the curved piece points to where to find the thing. So, let me get this straight. Uncle Bad Touch moved the Imperial Vault onto the second Death Star before it was complete, and stored important Sith artifacts, like the Wayfinder, on this incomplete station he knew the rebels would attack. Then, after it blows up, someone went to the wreckage, found the vault, and instead of taking anything went like, nah, just leave it. Instead, they fashioned a dagger whose blade exactly matches the ruins at that time because erosion and rust aren't real things, so it's not like the water and wind might shear away the exposed surfaces, making this map useless. Then, they encode the location of the vault in a language no one knows, and one outlawed by the Old Republic, meaning most if not all the translation droids wouldn't be able to translate it without hacking their brains. This dagger is then carried by a single Sith loyalist who is so protective of it that he uses it to murder people. Well, I suppose that's better than leaving it in a box out in the open in the forest on a lava planet. So how the fuck did Kylo Ren find that Wayfinder? Did he have a dagger? What clues did he use? And why was this thing just out in the open? If he didn't, then why did Rey and the others have to go through all this shit? Why is one Wayfinder a half-assed video game quest while the other is just there? Then Black Xena shows up and says Puck Marin sent a message saying the crew is the last hope. Wait, so Puck Marin knew these people were on Endor but didn't tell the Falcon crew? Wouldn't that have been a helpful thing to do since they're probably going to need help getting to the Death Star? Mary Sue wants to get to the Death Star, but Black Xena is like, it's too dangerous now. It'll be easier in the morning because reasons. Juan Solo asks for parts to repair the Falcon, and Mary Sue looks back towards the water. Oh, you already know what's going to happen. On the Falcon, 3PO continues to annoy everyone. Meanwhile, Black Xena gives Token a part, and he realizes it's a First Order part, and she tells him that there's a First Order ship they use for spare parts, and that she was once a stormtrooper like everyone else in her group. See, at the Battle of Who Gives a Fuck, she and her company were ordered to fire on civilians, but they wouldn't do it. Instead, they tossed down their weapons. All of them. The whole company. So anywhere between 80 to 150 stormtroopers collectively mutinied, and the First Order did nothing. And this is the first we're hearing about this. A whole company randomly goes rogue, and this doesn't get around to anyone? How has nobody stumbled onto them? How long ago did this happen? Troopers are usually adults, and Black Xena looks about the same age as Token, so did this happen a couple of years ago, back when Captain Bad Plot Armor was supposed to be somebody important? Did she know about this and just let it go? What about Hux and Kylo? Didn't they care either? What about the person who ordered the raid? Did they not notice that a whole company went missing? And how the hell does Babu know who these people are? It looks like they're here by themselves, but obviously they're trading with people to get resources. So those people never ask questions. No one's even curious why these people are on the moon. They just tell some tiny droid smith about them because plot. Black Xena says she can't explain why they all did it. And Token says, it was the Force.
That's not how the Force works.
He says it brought him to Juan Solo and then to Mary Sue, and this is just bullshit. It cheapens the moment in The Force Awakens when Finn flips out and doesn't kill anyone. That moment makes it seem like Finn has a conscience and that the First Order hasn't stripped away all of his humanity. It makes the stormtroopers look human and suggests that other troopers could possibly change their ways, or also struggle like Finn did. That's a powerful statement about the human will and how it can fight against indoctrination. But if the Force is what made Finn turn, well, it means nothing because it's not really him doing anything. It's just the Force manipulating him. He doesn't choose to do the right thing. He's just compelled to do it by some, what's the word? No, not force. Shitty writing. Because apparently Mr. Bubblehead wasn't the only one who wanted to fuck up Finn's character journey. If this is really what changed Finn, why'd the Force turn him into a selfish coward? He doesn't kill anyone, but spends most of The Force Awakens trying to run away. It's only at the end where he bravely fights a man who will clearly kill him that Finn acts in a selfless manner. Then in The Last Jedi, he becomes selfish again, but for that pussy, and spends the whole film trying to get Rey, except Tiger Mom won't let him. It's only at the end of the film that Finn realizes things are bigger than him. Well, probably not that much bigger. And more important than his puppy love for Rey. So he tries to sacrifice himself to save what's left of La Resistance until Tiger Mom shows up and forces a black man to say no to an Asian woman. Both of those show character growth and choice on Finn's part. He's not being controlled by the Force or led or even nudged. He's making his own decisions and overcoming his own flaws. But if the Force did it, his growth means nothing. And it begs the question of why did the Force wait until now to start doing this? Wouldn't it have been better for the Force to do this back when the First Order started kidnapping kids? Or before people joined the First Order? Or when the rebellion began? All those times, the Force let the stormtroopers murder away. But now it wants to Deus Machina its way in to stop things. Anyway, BB-8 rolls up and tells Juan he can't find Mary Sue, and that's because she's gone a sailing. A girl who grew up on a desert planet, who shouldn't know how to swim, let alone navigate treacherous waters, just grabs a skimmer and makes her way quite easily to the Death Star. So Token plans to follow her, and Black Xena tells him there's another skimmer, but wait, didn't she say it was too dangerous to try to go now, and they needed to wait until the morning? Rey has the Mary Sue powers. Both y'all asses black. You're expendable. Don't get in the water. We all know your asses can't swim. I'm black, I can say it. Meanwhile, someone edited in a cutscene from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and Mary Sue has to make a huge jump. You know, if you just force pulled that wire over there, you could just swing right on over. You know, I have a question. How does she know where she's going? The dagger only shows the location from the outside. The inside is a mess, so how does she keep her bearings and figure out how to get to the vault? Then she climbs up to what's left of the throne room from the Red Keep and senses something and a door just opens. How? Why? There's no power here. How is this even happening? And this is where the vault is located. Literally in the throne room on the Death Star. Mary Sue walks in and it closes behind her because of course it does. She's in a room of mirror crystals, maybe kyber crystals, and she finds the thing. Just as she takes it, she senses something, turns and sees this, and somehow keeps a straight face. Dark Mary Sue tells regular Mary Sue not to be afraid of who she is and attacks her. Mary Sue blocks and Darky flicks the second blade back up to lock Mary Sue's saber in place. So that's what that's for. To catch another lightsaber and lock it down. Clever. Except you could always just turn the lightsaber off. How is this a thing? How is this the best concept you could come up with for a throwaway scene? You've already got Kylo Ren's ridiculous saber. Now you got a switchblade saber to catch a blade that can literally disappear? Anyway, Darky makes stink face at Mary Sue, and Mary Sue falls out the room dropping the thing. Skids over to Emo Ren, who picks it up. Mary Sue sees him, pops her saber, and he drops his arm like, bitch, really? I'm here to help you out. He tells her that she wants to prove herself to Leia that she could be a Jedi, but she's proven something else. He says she can't go back to Leia now, like he can't, and for some reason he's on the verge of tears. Why? You miss your mommy? You're over here plotting to take over the galaxy, but you're crying because you can't see your mommy anymore? Mary Sue demands the thing, but Emo Ren says the dark side is in their nature and says surrender to it. And that's an interesting choice of words because that's what he's been doing. Kylo's supposed to be a fundamentally good person who, for some reason, is trying to be the bad guy. So he's fighting the light side of the Force, but it's not working. This kind of plays into Vader's perspective as well, in that he's basically given into the dark side. He's not just de facto evil. That's an interesting concept, the idea of someone would struggle against their better nature and have to force themselves to make evil choices, even though they're fundamentally good. You could almost build a series of films, say 3, around that character making a horrible decision he instantly regrets, stopping himself from doing the same thing again, defeating the person who pushed him to be cruel, and then trying to redeem himself in the eyes of the people. Instead, we get Mary Sue demanding the thing again, so Emo Ren crushes it in his hands and says that Mary Sue will only be able to get the Exegol through him. That's interesting because your thing was in the TIE Interceptor Mary Sue destroyed, and it doesn't look like you brought it out with you. I'm sure that'll be addressed. Mary Sue attacks Emo Ren and he dodges her and flees. Meanwhile, Leia drops her headset and walks off, and Peachhead says Leia will use the last of her strength to reach Emo Ren. Oh Jesus. This is how you're gonna kill her. Please tell me this is not how you're gonna kill Leia. Mary Sue and Emo Ren fight outside now. How did they get there? Doesn't matter. It's like this scene, but shitty. Seriously, they're supposed to be laser swords, not bats. Stop trying to beat each other with them. Black Xena and Token show up because apparently it wasn't that hard to cross the sea at this time of day after all. Token calls to Mary Sue and she force pushes him away. A big wave comes and Mary Sue and Emo Ren force jump away. They keep playing lightsaber patty cake until Emo basically tuckers her out. And Mary Sue, in a move I can only assume that made YouTuber Shadowversity's head explode, reverses her grip on the saber so the blade is pointing behind her and delivers the most telegraphed upward swing ever. Who did you think you were gonna hit with this shit? Even Stevie Wonder could see this shit coming. Emo Ren obviously blocks it and literally beats her to the ground. And when he's about to make the final hit, he stops. It's Leia. She calls his name. He turns, and I guess they force Skype. She lies down, holding a medallion, and dies. Emo drops his saber, which Rey grabs and then stabs him in the chest while he's looking away. Then she senses Leia died and realizes why Emo stopped attacking her. His mom was dying and you stabbed him. She's like, oh my god, I'm an asshole. Yes, that's what we've been saying. You're not bad, you're just written that way. Now, I really have to give it to Adam Driver because he is just nailing this scene. He's in utter shock and it's clear from his face that it's not because he got stabbed and is probably dying, but because Leia died, and he's absolutely selling it. And Daisy Ridley does a solid job here too. She looks genuinely horrified by Leia's death and sorry for what she's done to Kylo Ren. Then she heals him, so now we know why she has this magic power. It's almost like they wrote the script backwards and added in scenes at the beginning to make the end make sense, but still never bothered to explain why any of it happens. Then she says she would have taken his hand, Ben's hand, and then steals his ship to get away. So you didn't just left your friend stranded with the Falcon on this moon. Where are you going though? Why are you running away? You've done nothing wrong. Yeah, it was a cheap shot to stab him when he wasn't looking, but he did seemingly just try to kill you. And you healed him, so now it's good. Where are you going? Meanwhile, everyone is mourning Leia and Peach Lady says, goodbye, dear princess. And honestly, it's a great scene. It's not really for Leia, it's really for Carrie Fisher, and it's a send-off she should have gotten, so no complaints. The Falcon returns to the base and they want to go talk to Leia, and then someone tells them that she's gone and Chewie just loses it. Again, it's perfect. This is how inconsolable he should have been when Han died in front of his eyes. And then we see Emo Ren standing on the Death Star and this voice says, hey kid, and I'm like, yes Jonathan Kent. I saw Batman vs Superman, I know where this scene is from. So it's Han. I know what you're thinking. Han didn't have the Force, so he can't be a Force ghost, so how is he here? It doesn't matter. This is the best scene in the movie. It's wrong on every level, just defies all the lore ever written. Harrison Ford clearly just rolled out of bed, threw on something that looked like Han Solo, didn't comb his hair, didn't shave, just learned the lines and took the money. But damn if Adam Driver doesn't kill it. He is just perfection in this scene, and Harrison Ford is pretty damn good too. You can tell they have genuine chemistry, so it works in all the ways the BVS scene didn't. One quick thing I noticed is that Adam Driver stands like Harrison Ford, and thinking about it, he does that in all of the movies, sort of mimicking Han's relaxed stance. Very subtle, Adam. Very subtle. Han says he misses him, and Kylo says his son is dead. Han says that Kylo Ren is dead, but that his son is alive. Kylo says Han is just a memory, and Han says, your memory, and tells him to come home. Kylo says he can't because Leia's gone. Han says she's gone, but that what she stood for and fought for isn't. What makes this work so well is that it's the other side of the redemption story. When Luke redeemed Anakin, it was Luke seeing the good in this monster who saw himself as beyond redemption. Vader had cut off Luke's hand and had his family murdered, but done far worse to other people. This scene flips that twofold. One is the father forgiving his son who thinks he's beyond redemption, but also it's the person who was hurt, in this case killed, forgiving his murderer. It actually takes it up an extra notch because this is a sort of a Christian theme of preemptive forgiveness. Han is already forgiving Kylo, or rather Ben. He forgives him as he dies, touching his face to let Ben know. Ben just has to be willing to accept the forgiveness, to see himself as worthy of forgiveness. And I love that this is done with Han rather than with Leia because we kind of assume that a mother will love and forgive her child. But we don't think that about fathers. So seeing the father show that level of unconditional love toward the kid who killed him is refreshing. And then the scene harkens back to when Kylo killed Han. He says the same line. I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And Han pauses and then touches Ben's face, just like the last time. And he says, you do. Ben lifts up his saber, just like before, and says, Dad, and then clams up. He can barely keep himself together. There's this long pause, and Han finally goes, I know. That's Star Wars. That's how you do this. From now on, that's how you do it. Jesus Christ, so many things said in that pause. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I love you. And by not saying the thing, it's fucking perfection. This is a story we should have been following. From the beginning, it should have been Ben Solo's story. It's got all the weight, all the drama, all the meaning, all the substance, all the legacy, the symmetry with the previous films. This is what should have been the main story. So then Ben throws his lightsaber into the water, and I'm like, hold on, you might actually need that. I get that you're not Kylo Ren anymore, but you still have someone you need to kill, and you're gonna need a lightsaber. Then he turns around and Han is gone, and then he realizes, wait, she took my ship. How do I get off this thing? Then Uncle Bad Touch contacts Evil Straight White Man via holopad and tells him that Mary Sue has disrupted his plans. Oh, like you didn't see that coming. That happened the last time, and that was just the boy and his father. This is a girl who wants to fuck the guy you sent to kill her. You haven't got a chance. Then he tells General Evil Straight White Man to come to him on Exegol. Oh, what, you got an extra wayfinder just hanging around? How else is he supposed to get there? Remember, you need the wayfinder to show you the way. It's in the name, and he doesn't have one. So how is he going to be guided through the briar patch? What, are there special passes to get to Emperor Epstein's dirty island? Also, if you can send a signal from Exegol to this ship, can't it be traced? Wouldn't La Resistance be monitoring for transmissions coming out of the unknown regions? And how the hell does this get through the briar patch? I'm asking because I'm sure at some point in the next 20 minutes, no one will say ships can't leave Exegol without a navigational signal because the briar patch messes with their onboard navigation, meaning that signals being sent from the ships might get scrambled. Nope, totally won't happen. Then General Evil Straight White Man reveals that he served Uncle Bad Touch in the Empire. Wait, how old is this dude? And has he known about Uncle Bad Touch this whole time and just kept his mouth shut? Why? Then Uncle Bad Touch tells him to use one of the new Star Destroyers to destroy a world La Resistance knows, and says that Mary Sue will come to him and her friends will follow. So that was your plan. Get Kylo Ren to find the Wayfinder and come to you so you could tell him to kill Rey, knowing that Rey will also try to find a Wayfinder and get to you, and somehow survive Kylo Ren so she can get to Exegol and bring all 20 of La Resistance fleet with her. So they pick Kijimi as a target, you know, the planet you don't care about at all. Yeah, that one goes bye-bye. Oh well, at least Carrie Russell got paid for only showing her eyes, and those were probably digitally mapped in anyway. Now La Resistance knows that the Sith fleet has Death Star technology. Remember how they had to build larger and larger versions to generate such power? Now it's been miniaturized so it can fit on a Star Destroyer. Excuse me, I have a question. When did this happen? I ask only because the Starkiller base thing happened a year ago in your time, so in theory, you had this miniaturized technology around that time, but you converted a planet into a giant weapon anyway. Speaking of that, they just saw 5 planets get wiped out simultaneously. Do you think wiping out one more is really gonna shock them? The Sith send out their kneel before your Zod message, and Tiger Mom tells Juan Solo that Leia made him the acting general. Funny, because a year ago he got demoted for reckless behavior. Juan goes to talk to Leia's body, and Lando comes in and peps him up. Hey, remember Lando? Don't worry, JJ forgot he was in the movie too, because we don't see how he reacts to Leia dying. He just wanted to be with her for like 40 years, so it's not like it would have mattered to him that she passed away. Token talks with Dio about Mary Sue and discovers something. He goes to tell Juan, who places him in co-command. Wait, what? Why? Him? Ben. In command. Why? Is there no one else with the Never mind. Token tells Juan that Dio apparently knew about Exegol this whole time, but never said a word. He knew about Ochi wanting to take this little girl from Discount Tatooine to Exegol. Wait, so how did he know she was there? He kills her parents because they won't tell him where she is, and the movie seemed to imply he wasn't the guy flying the ship when Rey's parents dropped her off. But now, he sounds like he was, or at least knew how to find her. So what the hell actually happened? Did he ferry them to Discount Tatooine, forget that he did it, and then killed them? Did they Jedi mind wipe him so he couldn't remember, and so then he killed them? Or did he know exactly where she was because he took her there and then interrogated her parents about where she was for no reason? Anyway, Mary Sue winds up on Ahch-To and torches Emo Ren's ship because apparently you can just pile wood on it to make it burn. So she's run away to Ahch-To like Luke because, and I want to make sure I get this right, she won the fight against the guy trying to turn her to the dark side. Luke isolated himself because he popped wood for his nephew. Rey isolates herself because she defeated the bad guy, healed him so he wouldn't die, but left before she could find out if he was still bad. And then she takes Anakin's lightsaber and tosses it into the fire, and out comes this blue hand to catch it. It's Force Ghost Luke. He walks through the fire and says, and it's not Luke, it's Mark Hamill who says this. He says,
"A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect."
Oh, in your face, Nick, in your face! It hurts, don't it? It hurts. Burns, doesn't it, Nick? Ooh, that justice system burns, doesn't it? Yes!
Mark has been waiting for 3 years to say that, and you can just tell throughout the whole scene he's not acting. He is himself saying the things he's wanted to say since Mr. Bubblehead fucked up his legacy. And obviously J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio agree because this scene just dismantles what Mr. Bubblehead did. Luke asks Mary Sue what she's doing and she says what he did and he's like, I was wrong. Hit him again. Hit Riri again. Luke says his fear kept him there and asks what Mary Sue's afraid of and she says herself. And this is really the first time she's had any relatable character development. She's afraid of what she can become because she saw a vision that we never see of herself as a Dark Lord. Finally, you get there. It took almost 7 hours of screen time to happen, and there's about 30 minutes left in the film, so you don't have any time to develop it, but at least you got there. Luke then reveals that he and Leia knew that Mary Sue was a Palpatine, and you were doing so well, JJ. So well. How in the fuck do they know who she is? It's not like something you would just sense.
That's not how the Force works.
So how do they know this? Who told them? How could they possibly have found this out? Better yet, how long did they know this? If it was before The Force Awakens, why didn't they just go and get her to make sure she was safe? After all, Kylo Ren was running around, possibly training people in the dark side. Snoke was running around doing the same thing. You just want to leave the granddaughter of one of the most powerful Force users just out there? I can see Leia doing this, but Luke? Dude, you know how much you hated Tatooine. Why would you do that to another person? This isn't as bad as Obi-Wan not telling you the truth about Vader or the Jedi hating Anakin for no reason, but it's still pretty shitty. Luke tells Mary Sue that some things are stronger than blood and that every Jedi must face their fears, and basically Mary Sue is the only hope left. She has to face Uncle Bad Touch or all is lost. He then gives her Leia's lightsaber and tells her why Leia stopped being a Jedi. It was on the last night of her training. She easily beat Luke in the lightsaber battle because vagina. And Luke says that Leia sensed the death of her son at the end of her Jedi path, so she quit being a Jedi. That makes no sense. She gets a vision that her son will die. presumably when she dies or whatever the end of her Jedi path is supposed to mean. So she stops being a Jedi? How does that solve the problem? What if her stopping is the reason why Ben would die? What if he really doesn't die but just gets injured and then healed by a Mary Sue? You don't know. This is literally the same thing that had Luke run off and lose a hand to Vader. Why wouldn't he counsel his sister not to do this? Why wouldn't Yoda or Obi-Wan or Anakin appear to her and advise her against this? This makes no sense. Then Leia says that someone will take up her lightsaber, implying she knew about Mary Sue, which makes her quitting even dumber. You now know about the person who's going to heal your kid. What are you doing? Then Luke says 1,000 generations of Jedi live in Mary Sue because vagina. He tells her it's her journey now and to take both lightsabers. She says she can't get to Exegol because she doesn't have the thing and destroy the ship, but Luke says you have everything you need. Then Mary Sue is strong with this one. Mary Sue goes back to the ship that's conveniently not burning anymore and is cool enough for her to go into and gets Kylo's thing that was conveniently protected from the flames. This wouldn't happen to be the same thing that was on the first ship you destroyed at Burning Man, would it? Because we never saw him take it out the ship. So how is it in here? Is this the same ship? Did he have someone repair that ship in hours? Remember, this is literally all happening on the same day. This is all the same day. So they could fix this ship in a couple of hours, but not his mask. Then Luke raises the X-Wing out of the water, and there's a reprise of the music from the scene on Dagobah, which is a nice touch. Not a nice touch is how this thing still works. It's been submerged underwater for at least a decade. Even though it's sealed for the vacuum of space, it's still in water. It's being hit by waves and rocks and whatever animals live there. There's got to be a crack somewhere, and even if there wasn't, how would it still have power after all this time? Speaking of all this time, 3PO meets R2 and doesn't know him, and R2 gives him his memory back, so problem solved. Looks like he may have lost all of a day or maybe a year's worth of memory. That's it. Nicely done, JJ. La Resistance gets the data about Exegol from Dio, but they can't figure out how to get through the Briar Patch. Then R2 detects Luke's X-Wing. They realize it's Mary Sue sending them the coordinates to get through the Briar Patch, and they devise a plan. They're going to go to Exegol and destroy the navigational tower that helps the Star Destroyers get through the Briar Patch. So apparently, you can send radio transmissions from Exegol through the Briar Patch, but not navigational signals, except for the ones Rey is transmitting to La Resistance. Presumably, if you want to get out, you just reverse the course you used to get in. So all the First Order would need to do is hack this signal and use it to guide their ships out. Or they could use the coordinates that Kylo provided when they returned from Exegol. Or they could use the coordinates from the Star Destroyer they used to destroy Kijimi. Or they could just ask Uncle Bad Touch, since he would know how to do it. So then they're gonna need a ground crew, and Token says he's got that covered. I'm sure it won't look silly. Then Mary pipes up and says they should use some hold-on maneuvers, and Juan slaps it down with, that move is 1 in a million. First of all, I love how Dominic Monaghan isn't the least bit serious when he says this. It's almost like it was an ad-lib and they just kept it in. Second, first of all, I love how JJ and Terrio have to try to explain away Mr. Bubblehead's dumbass decision because any rational person would just have an empty ship jump to light speed at the end of the battle. But most first of all, I love how they try to do it by claiming that it's basically an impossible move. No, it's not. You just point the ship at the other fleet and jump to light speed. Done. It's not like they're able to move before you get there. The only way they're dodging is if they go to light speed before you. That's it. Otherwise, they're done. So just drink in how much Rian Johnson fucked Star Wars. None of these space battles can be taken seriously now because everyone's thinking, just jump to light speed. Then they talk about how they need more fighters, so Lando and Chewie will go and recruit more people. Would these be the same people who didn't help you last year? Why would they help you now? I mean, they refused to help you after watching the First Order blow up 5 planets. What in the world is going to make them change their minds? Oh, never mind. Juan Sol and Token give a speech and La Resistance heads out. Meanwhile, Mary Sue makes it to Exegol and heads to see Uncle Bad Touch. La Resistance arrives too and the battle begins. Unfortunately, the First Order realizes La Resistance is targeting the navigational tower, so they just switch it to the lead ship. Well, why didn't you do that in the first place? Better yet, if the lead ship can guide the other ships out, couldn't all the other ships just link their towers to get a continuous signal? That way if one tower goes down, it won't matter. Also, how come there's only one tower on the ground? Uncle Bad Touch made hundreds of ships, but only one tower to guide them out. So Token figures out that the signal's been switched to the lead ship. Black Xena asks how he knows this, and he says, a feeling.
That's not how the Force works.
So they land on the Star Destroyer, and General Evil Straight White Man says to jam their speeders, but they can't. He asks why, and the guy is like, they're not using speeders. No, they're using horses. Of course they are. You're going up against people with blaster rifles and vehicles that can move hundreds of miles an hour, and your choice for transportation is an animal that can easily be killed just shot right from up under you. Oh yeah, and we also get to see the red stormtroopers. This is the only time. Enjoy. Meanwhile, Mary Sue finds Uncle Bad Touch's special chair and stares at it like she's seen it before. That was probably in the vision that wasn't in the film. Maybe you should have added that in, so this moment makes sense. Then she hears voices, and it's the Dark Lord's dark minions chanting in black speech. Hey JJ, you will never get your hands on Lord of the Rings, so don't even think about it. By the way, who are all these people? Are these the people who built the Star Destroyers? Have they been on Exegol this whole time? Why are they chanting in black speech? How has no one heard rumor of these people before? Do they have the Force? If so, why is Uncle Bad Touch letting them live? What the hell is going on here? So then Uncle Bad Touch appears and says that he doesn't want Mary Sue dead. He wanted her to come here to become the new Empress. Wait, whoa. Why did you have Kylo Ren trying to kill her if you really wanted her to come to Exegol? Did you think he wouldn't do it or that she would win instead? What if he won? Then what was your plan? He moves towards Mary Sue, and now there's this machine he's hanging from that's pumping special juices into him. So this is how he's been kept alive, hooked up to this giant arm that lowers him down from somewhere. And you know, he's looking mighty intact, like he's still got his whole body intact. So somehow his whole body, except for his fingers, survived this, and then this. Uncle Bad Touch tells Mary Sue that to rule is her birthright, but she's like, nah. She's come to destroy the Sith, and he says as a Jedi, and she says yes, and he says nah. He can sense the anger in her. She wants to kill him, and that's what he wants too. He wants her body. Literally. She kills him, then he takes over her body because all the Sith ever live in him, and he will rule the galaxy using her body. First of all, why does she need to kill him for him to take over her body? Couldn't he just take over her mind right now? I mean, he's apparently controlled Snoke remotely, so shouldn't he just be able to bump her soul and be done with it? Second of all, he was trying his best to get Rey when she was a little girl. Was his plan to have her kill him when she was 7 and take over her body then? If not, was he gonna raise her on Exegol until she was ready? If that was the case, why not use his own son? Or make a new kid with one of the Sith speaking in black speech? Third of all, how the hell is he all the Sith? Does that mean that he's tapping into all their powers like Mary Sue, or is he literally every Sith that ever existed? How did that happen? Actually, when did that happen? Was he like this when he was the Emperor, Chancellor, Senator? Does that mean he was standing in the midst of the Jedi with all the Sith power ever and none of them sensed a damn thing? And if he's all the Sith, then what's the point of the rule of 2, the idea that there's one Sith master and one Sith apprentice? Are they just training someone whose body they're going to take over? If so, doesn't that mean that technically Palpatine isn't Palpatine but Darth Bane, the first Sith Lord? Fifth of all, doesn't this undo the scene with Anakin where Uncle Bad Touch talks about killing his master Plagueis? The way it was played, it seemed like Palpatine actually killed his master, and that his master legitimately could not manipulate the Force powers to save his own life. Now that's just meaningless because it's really Plagueis talking, not Palpatine. Or really, Darth Bane. Sixth of all, if there's basically just one guy for all the Sith, what was the point of multiple Wayfinders? Why make 2 of something if you really only need 1? Finally of all, why the fuck would you tell Rey what you're going to do? She wants to kill you, so you tell her to go ahead so you can force jack her body? Why would you tell her? She doesn't like you, doesn't want to be a Sith, so just let her kill you and then surprise jack her body. Why tell her what you're going to do when you know she won't kill you now? This is supposed to be like the temptation scene in the Return of the Jedi, but in Jedi, Uncle Bad Touch has Vader to protect him from Luke's attacks. The real point isn't to get Luke to kill the Emperor, it's to get him to kill and replace Vader. But there's no reason for Rey to be tempted into becoming the Empress, and definitely not to let Uncle Bad Touch take her body. There's nothing she gains from doing this, and nothing she's struggling against. So this is just the most pointless villain plan ever. And it makes what he did with Kylo look even dumber because he was actually trying to get Kylo to kill the vessel he wanted to take over. Meanwhile, Token and Black Xena try to blow up the nav tower, and she's shooting arrows at stormtroopers and winning. It's funny how the only stormtroopers with consistently good aim are the ones who quit being troopers. BB-8 opens the hatch and they drop the bombs and it blows up the nav tower 200 feet away and 2 stories above them because of course it does. So then the final order just resets it to a different location. You totally didn't see them do this 5 minutes ago when they just shut one down. What, are you gonna blow up all the towers now? Meanwhile, Juan Solo is waiting for backup, but there's still 20 minutes in the film, so nah. Uncle Bad Touch wants to grab some desert titties, but Mary Sue friend zones him hard. She says he wants her to hate him, but she won't. So he calls her weak like her parents, and she says her parents were strong because they saved her from him. And you know this would be so much more dramatic if it had any emotional weight to it. But since Mary Sue has never struggled or suffered or doubted herself on any real level in 3 films, it just sounds like she's humble bragging. Uncle Bad Touch says that Luke was saved by Vader, the only family he had, and the only family Mary Sue has is him, and then he shows her the battle above. The ceiling opens and she can see La Resistance, all 40 of them, losing. Uncle Bad Touch tells her that they don't have much time and no one's coming, but if she kills him, she will be in power and control the fleet so she can order them to stop trying to kill her new family. So I guess that whole bit about you being the only family she has left kinda doesn't work. And that's still not convincing. All your friends will die if you don't kill me and let me take over your body. As if when he has her body, he's actually going to stop the fleet. The only way to make it stop is for you to let me win. This is so stupid. Thankfully, Ben shows up to save the day. How? You need a wayfinder to navigate the Briar Patch. He doesn't have one. Rey sent out the signal for how to get to Exegol, but it didn't seem like she sent it to open broadcast, but specifically to La Resistance. So how the hell did he figure out how to get back here? And how did he get back here? He was stranded on Endor. La Resistance didn't pick him up, and Rey jacked his ship. So how did he get off the moon? But Mary Sue senses Ben, so pretends to let Uncle Bad Touch get a peek. Then there's a shot of the TIE fighter Ben used to get to Exegol. Where did he get the TIE fighter from? The Death Star? The fallen Death Star. They still work after 34 years in this. And how did he get to the unknown regions? TIE fighters don't have hyperdrives, and he had a long way to go. There's even a lightspeed jump people have to make when they leave the Briar Patch, so how did this work? Meanwhile, Token decides to use a cannon to take out the lead ship, because obviously none of the other 400 Star Destroyers have nav towers. Tiger Mom calls him, and he says he's staying, and she tries to cock-block his sacrifice again, but she knows Black Xena is with him, so lets it go. Uncle Bad Touch gets ready for the ritual transfer, and a bunch of Sith guards surround him and Mary Sue. Ben bumps into the Knights of Ren. When did they get here? How long have they been here? Why are they here? Why are they attacking him? Are they with Uncle Bad Touch? Since when? Who are these people anyway? How come they're all using regular melee weapons and not lightsabers? Do they even have the Force? Doesn't matter. Uncle Bad Touch tells Mary Sue to take out her saber and come to him and strike him down. Unbeknownst to him, but known to us, Mary Sue is Force Skyping with Ben as the Knights of Ren whoop his ass. She passes him her lightsaber behind her back, and Nate commits to whooping these people's asses. This is prequel level sword fighting, and I'm like, wait, you could do this whole time? You could fight like this whole time. So why'd you spend 3 movies fighting like Rebel Wilson trying to shovel snow? Just wasted opportunity. Kinda like the Knights of Ren, who Ben just decimates. Pity we lost such great and interesting characters. Like this guy, and that guy, and this other guy, and I don't even know who you are. Ben shows up and helps Mary Sue finish off the Sith guards and they strike a pose. And Uncle Bad Touch is like, bitches please, and uses the Force to knock away their weapons and pull them closer. But there's a back surge of Force power. It zaps his fingers and heals them, and then he realizes they're a dyad, like life itself, unseen for generations. Like he's surprised by this. Weren't you in Snoke's head? Haven't you been watching what these two have been doing? How do you not know they're Force buddies? And if you knew that this kind of thing existed, why didn't you try to create it? After all, you've got Darth Plagueis in you, so you should know how to create life. In fact, why didn't you just make a body for yourself? Make another Anakin. Why are you tracking down your grandchild when you basically don't need her? Then he says, the power of the two restore the one true emperor, and starts sucking out their life energy to restore himself. Wait. 2 minutes ago you were trying to get into this woman's hoo-ha. Now you've changed your mind and will stay in your grandpa body. You just threw out your plan just like that. Really. Meanwhile, La Resistance is losing, and Juan gives up hope, but Lando appears with every ship ever, and there's just no emotion to the scene. One, because we haven't followed the actual battle, so there's no sense of hopelessness or loss. Two, we saw this happen in the previous film, and it was much worse for them, and they made it through. And three, we don't really have any connection to these characters, so we're not concerned about them. We do get a cameo of Wedge Antilles, and Kerry Russell pops back up. Oh, you thought she died on Kijimi? No, that's not in her contract. Her character gets to live, even though it makes no sense how she and Puckmarin, and only she and Puckmarin, made it off the world alive. Back in the kitty den, Uncle Bad Touch shows off his new body. Excuse me, where'd you get the Hugh Hefner robe? Last we saw you, you were shrouded in all black. Now you've got red accents after you absorbed all the Force energy?
That's not how the Force works.
Ben gets up, but Uncle Bad Touch is done with Boy, so he flings him away. He takes the throne and shoots Force lightning into the sky, targeting just La Resistance. Even for Star Wars, this is a bit much. Just too much. Dude, your name is Sheev Palpatine, not Aizen Sosuke. Stop it. Mary Sue wakes up and sees the destruction, cries, and calls to the Jedi, and every important Jedi from the movies and the shows emotionally validates Mary Sue. They even went so far as to crib lines from Alec Guinness to add them in, cause she's totally not a Mary Sue. Every Jedi is in her because she's done nothing to earn this, nothing to prove herself worthy of it. She just is because vagina. So she grabs Leia's saber, and Uncle Bad Touch says, "Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion," and then shoots Force lightning at her. 5 minutes ago you wanted this woman's body so bad we should start calling you Finn, but now you want to kill her. Why? Just knock her out and take her body. You've already taken all her energy, she's barely a threat. Take the body. No, he shoots her with Force lightning, and she blocks it with the saber. He brags about his power and says he's all the Sith. And then Mary Sue force pulls Anakin's saber to her with the other hand and says, crosses the blades, which reflects the Force lightning, burning Palpatine away. Because that's it, that's all it takes. Just crossing two lightsabers and a little bit of Force push burns him right up. Unlike throwing him into an active engine and then blowing up the entire fucking station. So to recap, Palpatine survived this and this, but not this. Two sabers is just too much. And it's not like he could just stop shooting the Force lightning or use the Force to wrap the lightning around her and hit her from the back. No. There's no option other than to keep shooting the lightning directly at the lightsabers. This completely decimates what Vader did at the end of Return of the Jedi. You have completely stripped that moment of meaning. If all it took is for this woman to randomly do some little thing, I'm going to cross the sabers, that's all it's going to take. Meanwhile, Vader has had to struggle. He's had to deal with this man for like 40 years. His son almost dies. He dies in the process. You've just stripped out of all its meaning. All Rey needs to do is just put two lightsabers together and do a little push. That's it. You completely undermine the purpose of the original trilogy and the prequels. It serves no purpose anymore. You've stripped it away, all to make this one female character look like the greatest character ever. So then Mary Sue reflects the Force lightning back at him, and it blows him up and causes his power surge, which kills every single Sith in the room. All of them. The walls come tumbling down, and it kills everyone. Thousands of them just insta-killed because story. You know, when they did this in Lord of the Rings, that happened because Mount Doom and Mordor were tied to the power of the ring. But that didn't happen here. They all just blow up because of course they do. Meanwhile, Token and Black Xena take down the main ship and go to crash with it, but Lando comes in with the Falcon for the save. Where's BB-8? That's not important. Token gets on the ship and senses as Mary Sue drops the lightsabers and dies.
That's not how the Force works.
Or maybe it is. Maybe now Finn has force powers, and because of shitty editing, it doesn't make any sense why he keeps talking about being able to do something we never see him do. Then Ben crawls out of the hole and finds Mary Sue and is heartbroken that she's dead, and this moment would be perfectly fine as an ending. It would be a good end to a terrible character. Rey gave her life to save the galaxy. It's a hero's death, and even though she's only kind of earned it, it could work. He could carry her body up to the Falcon. Ben comes out, sees her dead, and Ben says she saved us all, she saved me, and they kind of deal with it, and someone calls him Kylo and he says, "Call me Ben. Ben Skywalker." And then it ends. It would be a good ending, which is why we didn't get it. Instead, Ben gives her his life force to bring her back. She wakes up, says his name, they kiss, he dies, and she doesn't try to do anything. She doesn't give him a little bit of force energy or nothing. He brought you back to life. You could at least give him a little bit back, but no. She loves him, just not enough to save his life. It's like the Titanic all over again. You don't want to give him a little bit of the force power back. Just a little, just a taste. Just enough to get him on the Falcon and put him in a back tank. Nothing? And we're supposed to think there was a budding love between these two, and she doesn't even cry when he dies. It's like she's not really that traumatized by it. I love you, just not enough to sacrifice myself for you. Then his body disappears, and then so does Leia's. Why? She's been dead for hours. She stopped training decades ago. Why was she turned into a Force ghost? And why when Ben dies? Was her power tied to his? How? Why? Movie, you can't just have stuff happen because it looks good on the page. It actually has to make sense in context. So then Token sees that Mary Sue is flying Luke's X-Wing, so that angle with Ben losing the woman he loved without being able to tell her how he felt is averted, even though it was barely even explored. Then he tells Juan that people have been rising up all over the galaxy, so they won. Yay! I mean, no one needs to see any of this. No one needs to see how or why people who wouldn't help La Resistance decide to change their minds. Hell, we don't even need to see them actually fight. Just tell us. They all go back to the base and everyone meets. Juan Solo makes bedroom eyes at Carrie Russell, but that's not in her contract. Two women kiss because, of course, the gay is always female. Then Peach Lady gives Chewbacca a medallion. The same medallion Leia held when she died. The same one like she gave Luke and Han 40 years ago. Now you give it to Chewbacca. 4 decades later, now he's earned it. Look, I get it, JJ, you're a Star Wars fan. And most fans thought it was jacked up that Chewie didn't get a medal, but come on. You could have CGI'd Leia giving it to him. Hell, it's probably Han's medal. He probably tossed it aside and Leia just held on it. I'll just give it to Chewie. After I die. I don't want to do it in person. I don't want to talk to him. And then Mary Sue shows up and BB-8 as well. Somehow. Lando meets Black Xena and it's heavily implied that she's his daughter. Whatever. Mary Sue, Token, and Juan meet and hug and it's fine. Then Mary Sue takes the Falcon to Tatooine. She goes to the deserted Lars farm, sees the kitchen, and force buries Luke and Leia's lightsabers in the sand. She holds up her new lightsaber, built out of her staff, and it ignites and it's gold because of course it is. Some old lady randomly shows up and says it's good to see someone back on the farm and asks her name, and she says Rey, and the lady's like, Rey who? And Rey looks to the right, and in the distance she sees Luke and Leia's Force ghost. Rey smiles. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. You better not. Don't you dare. You better keep that fucking mouth shut. Keep your mouth.
Rey Skywalker.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Your name is Rey Palpatine. Deal with it. You're taking the man's name? You ruined his fucking legacy, now you're taking his name? Is there nothing that you're not gonna just ruin in this entire fucking franchise? It's a perfect ending for this shit show fan fiction. Just the biggest fuck you to fans. And that's the end, by the way, that's it. The credits roll. This trilogy has completely undone the original movies and prequels. It renders everything that happened utterly meaningless, because in the end, they didn't really do anything. There was no point to Anakin being the chosen one. There was no point in him failing and turning to the dark side. There was no point in Luke's journey. There was no point in Luke refusing to turn to the dark side. And there was no point in Vader turning back to the light, because his final act of killing the Emperor and thereby bringing balance to the Force didn't work. Palpatine lived. The Empire endured. Palpatine used a clone body named Snoke, and the Empire changed its name. All they did, all they overcame or failed to overcome, nothing. All that matters is Rey. Rey comes in and without any risk, any trouble, any struggle, any turmoil, any loss, gets all the Force powers ever and beats Palpatine easily. For people still doubting that Rey is a Mary Sue, keep in mind that even in this movie, she never really has to try to win. She gives up in the beginning on a whim, and in the middle because she won, but it takes little to convince her to keep fighting. Her self-doubt and fear of becoming a Dark Lord aren't even shown on screen. We're told she has a vision. We're told she's afraid, but we don't ever see her do anything remotely suggest that's true. Compare that to Anakin, who we see recklessly run to save his mother, try to abandon chasing Count Dooku to save Padme, and cut off Mace Windu's hand for the same reason. His fear of losing Padme, no matter how terribly written, is at least on screen. These fanfiction sequels are just full of dangling plot lines. Who are the Knights of Ren? 3 movies, and we know more about Black Xena than we do about them. Nothing about them was ever explained. Their connection to Ben Solo, their connection to Snoke, to Palpatine, nothing. They're just there and gone, defeated by one of their own in 20 seconds. We're never told about how the First Order came to power, or why there was never a new republic established after the rebels won. These people just take over basically the Empire in all but name, and we're never told how any of this went down. We're never told what Luke, Han, and Leia did during these last 34 years. 3.5 decades of story just ignored. Luke sets up a Jedi school, but we never learn anything about that. How many students did he have? Where did he find them? How did he find them? Were they all children? Were they all in the school when Kylo Ren destroyed it? If some survived, how come they didn't join La Resistance? We're never told about what happened between Han and Leia. Why did he abandon her? Why did he leave his child? When did he leave his child? How long have they been separated? And then there's Ben Solo. How does he become Kylo Ren? Why does he become obsessed with Vader? Why does he want to turn to the dark side? What was his issue with Han and Leia? All of these are the story beats that get you invested in these characters, and it's just squandered. And that's before you factored in the monumental fuck-up called The Last Jedi that ruined everything The Force Awakens was trying to build. Now you have to fix that, along with telling the story you were originally going to tell, neither of which makes any sense. Who thought bringing back Palpatine was a good idea? It wasn't. There are rumors out there that Abrams and Lucas wrote a story involving a character from the Clone Wars show, Son of Mortis, and that this went to film, and that cut was shown to Bob Iger, the guy running Disney, and he didn't like it and wanted Palpatine back, so we got this mess. There are also rumors that the ending was being tweaked up to the last minute before the film was released, and given the number of scenes that seem to refer to something not in the film, it sounds plausible that both of these are true. The simplest solution would have been to make the initial film about the original cast, and introduce the new cast at the end. The second film could have been wrapping up the original story, maybe Han dies in that one, and the final one Luke dies, and the torch is essentially passed on to a new set of characters. By doing this ham-fisted story with a character who just gets everything she wants, and then rehashing all the key moments from the original trilogy but with none of their gravitas, it just falls flat. I watched this movie and I didn't feel excited or tense or really that interested until the Han and Ben scene. That's halfway through the film. There's no weight to anything because it's one scene rushing to the next, and when it slows down enough to try to get something going, you still won't commit. You won't let Rey die even though in context of the scene, it's the most powerful thing to do. You give the character weight by having her actually sacrifice herself. Instead, you undo it within seconds, stripping away the potential power of that moment. You meddle with the lore to such a degree that it makes no sense how things happen. If Force ghosts can affect the real world, why don't they show up and take out Palpatine? If the Force is really something anybody can use, why didn't Leia train Finn in the Force along with Rey? You've got these characters teleporting shit with the Force, you've got Palpatine claiming he's literally got all the Sith living inside him, and it just makes zero sense in context of the established rules of the world. And the consequence of playing loose and fast with the lore and the characters is that Disney managed to squander fan support in 3 films. In 3 years, they went from people desperately wanting to see these movies to longtime fans literally hating Star Wars. They even turned the guy who created the series against them. And was it worth it? Was it worth it to destroy a profitable franchise? Was it worth it to destroy a cultural icon like Luke Skywalker? Was it worth it to attack the fan base when they complained about how you treated their favorite characters? And this is what you leave us with. A character literally taking an actual popular character's name as if she has any connection to him when it was his sister who trained her. Oh, it still would have been bad if she said Rey Solo or Rey Organa, but it at least would have made sense. But that need to dig in at the original films and try to diminish them is just shameful, and it's made worse by the haphazard way you did it. The Force Awakens was the best of the three films, but not by that much. These movies are probably the most visually stunning Star Wars films you will ever watch, but they have no soul. It's just eye candy, like the Avengers films. It would be better to be the prequels and try to do something and fail than to have not attempted to do anything at all other than bank on nostalgia. And the true travesty of all this is that all the actors were good. No complaints about them. Great on-screen chemistry. You believe Finn likes Rey. You believe Rey likes Kylo. You believe Kylo is conflicted about killing Han. You believe Poe is a flyboy. All of this works. So if you'd given them something to really chew on, you'd have nailed it. And you kinda did with Kylo and Han. That was a story that had the weight. That was a story that wanted to be told. If you weren't going to put Luke in the films, because as one of the writers from The Force Awakens says, he kept stealing all the scenes, Kylo Ren was your best bet. And I think y'all knew it, which is why you stripped him of his power halfway through the first movie, because he was totally stealing the show. So here we are. Disney is stuck trying to figure out what to do. Obviously they want to make more Star Wars films, but the negative reactions to the last three made that pretty hard. I'm sure they're totally baffled by the success of The Mandalorian, and will find some way to fuck that up because too many men like it. The thing is, I don't want to hate Star Wars. I didn't grow up with the movies, I'm not the biggest fan of the franchise, but I do enjoy it, and I'd like to be able to enjoy the movies and shows without worrying about identity politics being shoved into the series or people pitching a fit because the franchise appeals more to boys than girls. Star Wars is a fantastic sandbox. There's so many stories you can tell, so many themes you can touch on. A kind of adventure world we just don't see anymore. There's no reason not to give fans what they want, and no reason to tear it down because you want the new thing to be more popular than the old thing. Star Wars is for everyone. It's for adults, for college kids, for little kids, and their dogs too. But it's also bigger than that. It's a story that hits those foundational elements of who we are as people. And because of that, it means something to people. It's a popcorn flick, but it's also a hero's journey, and it has the power to inspire people. It's something that makes a child dying of a fatal illness want to be like and even meet Luke Skywalker. And it's something that makes the actor who portrays him on screen put on that costume, go to a hospital, and talk to that kid not as Mark Hamill, but as Luke Skywalker, because that's how much it matters. And I wish the people who made these movies thought about that before they tried to ruin the franchise. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.